Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we have something that should be quite interesting. It's a little bit different. So we're going to do my first ever review from Slovakia. We're going to go to the capital city Bratislava and we're having a taste of a beer from Unorthodox Brewing. So this one is called Lusinatta and it's described as being a dark smoked rye Saison, which I can't say I've ever tried a beer that's described itself as that before. So it comes in at 6.7% ABV and it should be really interesting. I'm not sure what else to say about this one other than that these guys are a kind of nomadic sort of gypsy brewery, if you like. So it should be a really interesting beer, but there seems to be a lot of good beers coming out of different countries across Europe, so hopefully Slovakia is none different to that. So yeah, it should be a really interesting one, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, of course, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my future reviews that hopefully I can do from Unorthodox Brewing. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city or state, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. I will make one for all the Slovakian beers. There will only be this one in it for the moment, but hopefully I can review some more Slovakian beers for you in the future. But as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys, and the support that you give the channel is hugely appreciated. And don't hesitate to get in touch if you are watching in Slovakia, because it would be great to hear from you guys about some of the other breweries that are down there. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Unorthodox Brewing then. So Unorthodox Brewing, as I mentioned to you, is a Slovakian nomadic brewery founded by Vlado Kacnakovi, a native of Bratislava. So while he'd been a PhD student, he had the opportunity to go and lecture in the US, and this was where he started to encounter the American craft beers. And when he was returning home to Slovakia, he did a little bit of research on home brewing and he decided to give it a go for himself. But after the situation in the academic world began to deteriorate, he decided that he wanted to get involved in the beer scene in Bratislava and try and bring some of these American craft beers back to his home country. But he says he was pleasantly surprised by the demand for the beer, and they've been growing steadily over the years, and they collaborate with a lot of other breweries. That kind of goes part and parcel with being a nomadic or gypsy brewery, however you want to refer to them. But they've done a lot of collaborations. I think the latest one that they had on their Facebook page when I'm filming this review was one with Yankee and Kraut from Germany, actually, who are a really good and up-and-coming brewery. That's one that Peter over at the Clueless Drinker always talks about. But it is cool to see some of these breweries popping up in different countries in Europe, and it is cool to see the craft beer bug spreading. So yeah, these guys, they seem to produce new beers all the time. I don't think they have a core range of beers, but we were very lucky and managed to get some of these through in Glasgow. And like I say, it's always cool to try new beers from different places. So I hope you guys enjoy my take on this one. That's all I can really tell you about this brewery just now, but I'm sure we'll hear more about them in the coming while. So yeah, just to tell you a little bit about this beer then. So this one is a 6.7% rye smoked Saison. It's hopped with Soriachi Ace, which is a Japanese hop, and the Azaka, which is American of course, and it has a malt base of Pilsen, smoked chocolate and caramel malts with some oats and rye in there as well. So it should be a really interesting beer. I'll just let you have a little quick look at the artwork on this before we open it up then. There you can see it's really quite an interesting one actually. It reminds me of some of the kind of ancient Greek things and stuff like that. It's almost a kind of, it's just a really unusual style of artwork, this actually. There you can see, this is the Unorthodox Brewing symbol on the side here, and it says that this one was brewed at Sessler Brewery, which I think is also in also in Slovakia. So like I said, these guys are a nomadic brewery and they go around lots of different places. There you can see plain bottle cap on this one, just a plain gold one. Comes in at 6.7% ABV and it has 45% IBUs. It does tell you a little bit about the brewery on the side there, but that's in Slovak, so I am not even going to attempt to read that. That's a language that I have no idea about, but I am told when it comes to Eastern European languages, I do have a knack of pronouncing them, so I'm not going to try that though. It looks kind of crazy. But yeah, let's get this guy open and we'll get on with the tasting then. Really looking forward to trying my first Slovakian beer. Oh, there you are. Got a little bit excited there, but we'll just pour it carefully and get it out. You can smell some of that nice smoky character off this right away. Just pour it slowly. That should be really nice. That should be okay now, I would think. Yeah. So as you can see with this one, it's poured with a pretty big head Just get the last of it in there. It's poured with a pretty big head, but you can see it's a nice sort of dark ebony rosewood colour. If I hold it up to the light, well, I suppose actually if I hold it up to the light, it's more of a kind of chestnutty colour actually. I think it's fair to describe it as a sort of chestnut mahogany colour. There's one or two wee bits of sediment just floating around in it, one or two big bubbles sticking up towards the side of the glass, and quite a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of that head there. The head, incidentally, is about 2.5 fingers, and it's a kind of frothy beigey colour, but it looks really, really nice. And you can smell some of these lovely smoked malts coming out of this one. As I said, I think this beer is going to be a really interesting combination of different things. The beer itself, if I hold it up to the light, it does have a little bit of clarity to it, but it does come across as being quite a hazy beer then. But yeah, let's take a closer look at the aroma then and see how we get on. Oh, that smells really nice. It's got an almost kind of herbal note to it, this one. It's just really quite unusual in the aroma. But you can pick up some sweet caramel in there. It's a little bit toasted. Wee bit of biscuity malt as well. It does have a kind of woody and nutty undertone to it, but like I said, it's a bit herbal. But you can pick up this kind of almost Rauch malty characteristic coming out of it. The smoky character in this one is definitely meaty rather than peaty, so I'm pretty sure it's going to be some of these Bamberg Rauch malts that they've used in there. The Scottish smoked malts, of course, have that more kind of earthy, grassy, kind of peaty note to them. And this to me smells really like the German smoked malts. I'm a huge fan of smoked beers. If you hadn't guessed, or if you haven't watched the channel before, you'll know it if you have watched the channel before. But yeah, it really is leaning towards the malty side of things. It's got that little herbal note, some woody and nutty aspects to it. There's a wee bit of earthiness from the hop, and you can pick up a little bit of a slightly citrusy fruit. The Soriaci Ace, of course, is going to give you a really distinct kind of citrusy note, but the Azacca gives you a little bit more of a tropical fruit, kind of mangoes and oranges or tangerines. But you can't really pick that out in this beer. This one's really all about the malty aspects. So some nice Rauch smoky malts in there, nice bit of caramel toasted, some woody nutty elements to the beer as well. But overall, you know, it's a really, really nice smelling beer, this one. So as I always say, just take a little bit of time and mull over the aroma before you actually get stuck into it. It's really quite a nice smelling beer, and it just has some unusual aspects to it. That's always half the experience when it comes to craft beer, of course, is the aroma. When it comes to whiskey and sake and things like that as well, there's always little different things to pick up. But just make sure you take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma of this beer for yourself. But let's get stuck into this one then. So this one is the Lusinatta from Unorthodox Brewing, a gypsy brewer, nomadic brewer, however you want to describe them, from Bratislava in Slovakia. My first review ever from Slovakia, so na zdravie. Cheers. That's quite interesting. It's got quite a bit of carbonation in it, which is kind of, you saw the way it kind of bubbled up a little bit as it came out, so it's a wee bit over carbonated, we can say that, but that's not the most important thing. It's maybe just been sitting for a little while. But in terms of the flavour, it is quite a nice beer actually. That's probably one of the things you have to remember about the Saison beer as well. It is a Belgian style of beer, and Belgian beers do tend to have a little bit of kind of activity to their carbonation, I guess you would say. But that's quite nice. This beer isn't like anything else I've tried before. It's just kind of, it's pretty much completely unique actually. But yeah, as I always say, especially with dark beers like this, sugar it around your palate and let your whole mouth adjust to it before you actually start trying to analyse the flavour, because there's a lot of complexity to the darker beers. But yeah, this is really interesting. So in the middle of your palate you've got this nice light bready character that just blankets the middle of the tongue. On top of that you can start to pick up this thicker kind of brown bready note, and you can pick up some of the kind of rye spicy notes a little bit as you move further out towards the middle of your, towards the edge of your palate, sorry. In the middle of your tongue there's a nice little bit of caramel and biscuity sweetness there, but you can definitely smell, or definitely taste rather, that nice Rauch malt smokiness. It's definitely got that nice meaty character to it. The sort of smoky character that comes across in the flavour does have a little bit of that earthy, peaty flavour to it. So I would be really curious actually in the aroma. It definitely smells more like these German Rauch malts, but in the flavour it's got a lot of that Rauch malt quality to it, but it has just a little bit of that earthy, peaty character that you would expect of Scottish smoked malt. So that's quite interesting. That's a really quite interesting beer, that. It's got this nice woody and kind of nutty undertone to it as well, and that just comes out as you move further and further into the aftertaste. It's that smoky note, kind of toasty smoky note that's coming out as you move further into this beer. It doesn't, it said it had oats in the malt base of this one. I'm not picking up too much in the way of oats in this. It's not quite smooth enough for that. It's more of a kind of, how do you say, a sort of bubbly beer, this one. It's got more of a kind of slightly aggressive, sort of roasty character to it, which is quite interesting. It doesn't quite have the smoothness that I would expect if there was oats in there. But it's a really quite nice beer. It's very, very unusual. Just be aware of that. It's not your conventional Saison in the slightest. In fact, I mean, when it comes to being a Saison, I'm not sure that this one, if I blind tasted this, I would have no idea that this was a Saison. I'm not sure what I would say this beer is, but I do like how all of these flavours kind of go together actually. I've tried, I think, an Imperial Black Saison before from, I think it was Dieu du Ciel in Canada, and it wasn't quite like this. This one's a bit more kind of roasty and smoky and things like that, but I do like what it does. But it's nice. I wouldn't hesitate to drink this again. I would love to try it on tap, because I think on tap with just a little bit more smoothness, this beer would come across really nicely. For me, the flavour's good, but the carbonation that this one has is just a little bit too much for it, I think, but I do like what it does. On the hoppy side of things, in the back corners of the palate, there's a little bit of earthiness there, and as you come further forward, you can feel just a little bit of a kind of floral character there. So that earthiness kind of smooths out as you go forward, and there's just a little bit of floral character there underpinning that, and you can feel a little bit of floral bitterness on the front corners of your palate. As you go round the very front curve of your tongue, it's just a little bit more light and has a kind of lemongrassy aspect to it. It's really interesting. And behind the front curve of the palate, that's where you get this little oily bubble where the nice kind of fruity esters come out. For me, this is quite interesting because it has a little bit of a red kind of candied fruity ester to it. Yeah, it's got this nice, it has a little bit of that almost lemongrassy flavour to it, but at the same time there's some nice kind of red fruity esters in there. I'm not sure exactly what to make of those. There's a wee bit of an orangey note as well. That will be from the Azaka, of course, but these red fruity esters will be the kind of tropical fruits. When you put the tropical fruit flavour hops into these darker beers, they do tend to morph a little bit into the kind of red fruity esters more than anything else, but there is a little bit of a sharper citrus note, which I'm pretty sure it's the Soriachi Ace. I've had enough encounters with that hop to pick up. It's that quite distinct sharp citric character that you expect from that Japanese hop. But the beer, it's really interesting, and that's what you want as a beer reviewer. You want something that's going to test your palate a little bit, and I do like how all these flavours go together. It's not really a conventional beer, and you know, that was one of the things they said in the article I read. They like to brew things that are quite unusual. And you know, this one is quite unusual, and it's just, that was the reason why they called themselves Unorthodox Brewing, of course, because they do produce some quite unusual beers. But it's really quite nice, that. I wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. I'd love to try some of their other stuff and see what they're doing, because like I said, if I blind tasted that beer, I'd enjoy it, but I would have no idea exactly what it is. But if you like things that are unusual, if you like a nice kind of smoky beer with a, I guess you would say, a kind of interesting fruity and hoppy character to it, this one's going to suit you down to the ground. The meaty character that comes off of this and the slight roasty smokiness as well is really quite interesting. I like how this beer turns out. It's just a little bit overcarbonated for me. In terms of the mouthfeel, I'd say it's mid-bodied. The carbonation is quite active on this one. Like I said, I think it's just a little bit overcarbonated. The mouthfeel, I think, overall is fairly wet, but that's the carbonation that does it. I think it would suit it a little bit better if it was just a little bit more oily in its mouthfeel. It might be that the bottle's just been sitting for a little bit, of course. I think they'd had it in the shop for about a month or so. when I actually bought it, and I think I bought this beer about 2 weeks ago, so the beer is about 6 weeks since it's been into the shop. The malt base on this, I'd say it's quite sweet in some places, but overall it is quite a dark roasty malt base you're going to get from this one. The hops are very smooth, there's not really a big hoppy bitterness to this. It did say it was 45 IBUs, so overall it's not that bitter, and there's just a little bit of a juicy fruity note to it as well. But overall it's quite a nice beer, and like I said, I wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. And if you get the chance, I would recommend that you try this one. On the basis of this beer, I would be really interested to try some of their other things, because like the name suggests, they brew some pretty kind of unusual beers. But what was it they described it as? A dark smoked rye Saison. It's really quite unusual. I don't get so much of the rye in this one. There is a wee bit of that kind of rye spice to it, but mainly it's the smoky character that comes out of this one, and it does have some of the bready notes that you'd expect of the Saison too, and probably they've added, since it's a Saison, they've probably added some honey to it as well, I would suspect. But it's a really quite interesting beer, this one, and I do recommend you have a try of it for yourself if you get the chance. But yeah, this one was the Lusinatta from Unorthodox Brewing, a nomadic brewery from Bratislava over in Slovakia. So it was really cool to do my first Slovakian review for you. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do check out my social media, but most importantly, thank you for watching, and do let me know some of the other Slovakian breweries that I should check out. It's been really cool to do this first review for you, and hopefully I can review some more for you in the very near future. It's landed just now, the Lusinatta from Unorthodox Brewing in Bratislava. Na zdravie.